Question 1. Can you fly into the sun? Hello guys, Griff here, and today we're looking at the biggest, most burning questions fans have about Starfield. Okay, so I'm going to start off with a question a lot of people have about ship customization. Can you customize ship interiors? Now, obviously, you can build your own spaceship in Starfield and you can make it into pretty much whatever shape you want. But what about the interior of your ship? The answer to that is, I'm afraid, a no, and I'll tell you why. For starters, Bethesda hasn't shown off a single second of ship interior customization. If it was in the game, you would have thought they would show it. They showed off ship building and base building, but no ship interior stuff. And by that I mean the ability to decorate your walls, maybe hang up a few posters, switch around the positions of tables and chairs, etc. So the fact we don't see any interior ship customization in any of the footage Bethesda has released suggests there is none. Apart from, the ability to move items you've collected and make like a big stack of sandwiches. Can you fly into the sun? No, you cannot fly into the sun. According to this bit of the gameplay footage, the set course button is grayed out whenever hovering over a star, meaning you can't fly into it and burn yourself to a crisp. Is there an autopilot? All signs for an autopilot point to yes, there is an autopilot. For starters, there are other AI-controlled ships in the game, so if the system is in place, I don't see why Bethesda couldn't also give your ship an autopilot ability. Secondly, we already know you can assign pilots to crew positions, so they'll more than likely be able to fly for you. And thirdly, we know you can freely walk around your ship. This has to be with an autopilot while you're doing this, otherwise your ship would just crash while you're in the kitchen making a coffee. Autopilot confirmed. Underwater gameplay. Can you go underwater? Yes, and yes, we've already seen how many planets are water-based, which not only means you can very likely explore underwater, but interact with marine life as well. Plus, you've got a spacesuit. That potentially means unlimited oxygen under the waves. Can you fish? Todd Howard has said there is a kind of fishing in the game. It just, quote, depends on your definition of fishing, end quote. There's not a fishing rod you can whip out, that's confirmed. But there is a city that's completely surrounded by water, that's called Neon, and this water very likely contains marine animals. Otherwise, Howard wouldn't have said it depends on your definition of fishing. So you can definitely harvest and farm marine life, just not using a rod. Can you spacewalk? Now this has not been confirmed, but I'm going to say yes, and I'll tell you why. There are two reasons actually. Number one, the jetpack. There's already a full control system in the game letting you fly around. So it's not a stretch to say you can use this same control system to leave your spaceship and fly around space in 0G. And two, the reason we haven't seen any footage is because Bethesda is saving it as a special gameplay moment you experience yourself, sort of like when you left the vault for the first time in Fallout 3. That first spacewalk is going to be pretty special if it's there, I'm not gonna lie. Can you throw people out of the airlock? For this, I'm gonna say no, and the reason for this is I don't think you or anything else can freely leave your ship. You won't be able to enter space without a loading screen. It's a bit like Mass Effect's Normandy in that respect, I think. Now, I still believe you can spacewalk, but I think this will happen at scripted moments in the game. We've already seen that stealing ships is an automatic process where you dock the two together without physically leaving a ship and entering another via space, and you can also repair your ship directly from the driving seat, so again there's no need to leave your vessel and repair it from the outside. There's basically no reason for individuals to enter space on their own, and to open up the whole, realm of space just to give you the ability to throw someone out of the airlock would be a massive technical challenge. Are there ground vehicles? No, there almost certainly are not ground vehicles. Bethesda hasn't outright said no to this, but we've already had an hour of gameplay footage so far, and not a single second has shown off anything close to resembling a ground vehicle. If you want to move a little faster out of your ship, you've got the jetpack, and unlike a rover, it won't get stuck on some random terrain. What happens to your ship when you get a new ship? We know that you can own multiple ships in the game, but where does your current one go when you say buy a new one or steal one from somebody else. I call your attention to this icon. It says home ship. Now that's an interesting phrasing. It could just mean primary ship, but then why not call it that? Specifically using the term home ship suggests a level of domestication, and by that I mean maybe your home ship is quite literally your home. This is where you'll have all your crew, all your family, and maybe where your kids sleep. We have seen in one piece of concept art an explorer who looks like he's just come home from a long day's exploring and he's being greeted by a kid. So yeah, maybe your home ship is where your family and crew stay. Adding to that idea, assigning them to a home ship automatically would certainly be easier than you having to manually move them one by one when you get a new ship. They would just all automatically go to your home ship. Aside from that, I'm pretty sure that whatever ship you designate as your home ship is the one you can call to pick you up whenever you're stranded. So if you're far from your ship and you need a pickup, your home ship will be the one to do it. Can creatures attack each other? This is the question many people have about whether native alien wildlife can actively hunt each other. We know they can attack you, but what about a fully functioning ecosystem where animals exist in a food chain and where bigger ones prey on smaller ones? Well, Todd Howard actually hinted at this in an interview with the YouTube channel Kind of Funny Games. According to Howard, quote, "We've actually had a problem at times with the predator creatures going and killing all the more peaceful creatures. So you're coming across and going, why are they all gone? And you realize there's something dangerous in the area. I would say this, we do everything that you mentioned and we really try to mix it up and spend a lot of time balancing it so that it's fun minute to minute," end quote. So it sounds like Bethesda is making sure it's tuned and balanced to prevent one apex predator wiping out the entire planet. There's one story that I remember from Bethesda's Oblivion making of documentary, which you can watch on YouTube, where they had one particular NPC who would go to every vendor in town and buy up all their stock, meaning that whenever the player tried to buy anything, there would be nothing left. So they had to tone down that NPC's spending tendencies in Oblivion, just as they'll have to keep an eye out on the predation levels in Starfield. Also, check out this moment in the footage. We can clearly see two aliens chasing after another one. It's a split-second moment, but this one little animation reveals a whole lot. It reveals that yes, aliens can and will interact with each other, and I doubt it's random either. You won't see, for example, a tiny little alien going aggro on a massive one, because that would just look weird. So I'm willing to bet there is an entire ecosystem in the game where predators actively hunt prey. Another question about creatures is, can you tame them? You can tame and ride animals in the likes of No Man's Sky and Ark Survival Evolved, so what about Starfield? Well, there is an indication you can tame them, if not actually ride them. This is because of one skill you can unlock in the game called Xenosociology. With the Xenosociology skill, you can mind control aliens, whether humanoid or creature-like in appearance. This creature at the top of the icon looks a lot like this alien, which is called the Hunting Thormantis, so you'll 100% be able to tame this fearsome looking creature. But you don't just have to pacify people, you mind control. You can also make them flee, turn them aggro so they attack everything on sight, and there's even a control option suggesting you can direct them somewhere. So not only could you potentially tame a Hunting Thormantis, but make your own personal attack dog. How many creature types are there in the game? With 100,000 planets, how are we going to see, like 100,000 unique alien species? For that I say it's unlikely. Each planet will not have its own unique life forms that you'll only find on that planet. Instead, we're gonna have generic creature types common to each biome. The indication for this is when using your scanner in the game, it identifies what biome aliens belong to, not their planet. So Bethesda is categorizing animals according to biome. For instance, if there's a forest biome present on a planet, you'll find the same sorts of aliens living in that forest regardless of what planet. Now, at first, that does sound disappointing, but here's why I think that's actually a genius move. Let's say you want to harvest parts from this specific alien. Instead of looking everywhere for this thing, which could literally be anywhere in the galaxy, all you have to do is head to the biome it's associated with. If your scanner tells you it favors a mountainous biome, head to the planet with a mountainous biome, and more than likely you'll find this alien. Then you can farm it to your heart's content. That said, I do still think Bethesda will surprise us with some unique life forms that you won't find anywhere else. Maybe like a powerful alien at the end of a dungeon that you need to defeat, as well as maybe regional variations that each have different patterns and colours. colours. The next question, what happened to the Earth? Now this is a pretty old question at this point, but the community theories on this are developing all the time. The prevailing theory at this point is that there was a sudden event that made conditions on Earth unlivable. This could be a nuclear war, an asteroid strike, or climate change. We were forced to flee in this universe basically. We didn't leave because we wanted to explore. Take this image for instance. This shows what very much looks like the St. Louis Arch, surrounded by desert, suggesting Earth is looking in a very bad way. Another image shows a rocket in similar looking terrain, and check out the NASX logo, which represents the combining of NASA and other world space agencies in the game. Now you might say this could easily be Mars and not Earth, but we've already seen the terrain of Mars is much redder in colour, so this does look again like a ruined Earth, which means we'll actually be able to land on Earth. That said, Bethesda almost certainly isn't letting us across the whole thing. They'll probably just have a few locations we can land at and then say that, you know, the rest of Earth is locked off due to radiation or extreme heat or something like that. Which leads me to answer the question of what happened to the Earth with either nukes, asteroids, or climate change. Or hey, maybe all three. Maybe there was an asteroid, we launched nukes at it, and it backfired, making our climate unlivable. What about romance options? Well, this being a Bethesda game, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say yes, you can romance people in this game. And the evidence for that is these children. Where did they come from? Someone's getting on in the Starfield universe. That's all I'm saying. Not only will you be able to romance people in Starfield, but raise a family in an outpost complete with a mechanized butler. It will be a similar system to Skyrim and Fallout 4, where there are a handful of possible romance options for different genders, including men, women, and robots. Romantic relationships are driven by charisma checks, and when you complete the special quest or two for your romantic partner, you'll unlock perks. How big can you build spaceships? We get a good indicator of this in the ship builder, as shown by these dimensions on the bottom of the screen. You can make anything from a speedy little fighter to a hulking starship with a captain's bridge fit for multiple crew. The biggest we've seen so far can fit 8 crew. There will of course be a limit. You won't be able to pilot Star Destroyer type vessels, but you do have a lot of leeway. Is procedural generation consistent? By that I mean if we both land on the same planet in our different games, will those planets be the same? The answer is yes. Bethesda loves to give players persistent worlds. If you leave a body somewhere, for instance, it's there when you come back. The procedural generation in Starfield is used more to fill the planets in and give them detail. It doesn't randomize them each time they load. It's not, you know, like a roguelike game. Will there be mod support? Yes, Bethesda knows how important mods are to the community, and Starfield is 100% compatible with mods. The PC version will be moddable day one, but console support for mods will be added later, like they did with Fallout 4. Are there radio stations? Now this is an interesting one. We haven't heard anything official on the topic of radio stations in the game, but I'm leaning towards yes. Think about it, you're in a spaceship traveling vast distances in a silent vacuum, so Bethesda has to give you some sort of entertainment. Maybe you use your ship's radio to pick up a signal during your travels. We already know that you can communicate with NPCs in other ships.
Hello, stranger. I just finished cooking up some food. If you want to come on over, just pop on by.
So you definitely have a speaker system. If it's not radio in the traditional sense, you might even have a portable music player with some preloaded old songs from back on Earth, letting you listen to classical music such as Despacito by legendary Earth composer Justin Bieber. Is there atmospheric flight? In other words, can you fly your ship around planets after you've entered the atmosphere of a planet? The answer is, I'm sorry to say no, you simply pick a place on the planet and fly there automatically. The only time you manually control your ship is in space. Is Starfield on Game Pass? Yes, Starfield is on Xbox and PC Game Pass. Can you play Starfield at 60 FPS? The answer to that is only on PC. On console it's limited to 30 FPS. Why am I so tired all of the time? That's one question I can't answer. Another question people want to know is how big are cities in the game? Well, we can speculate how big the biggest city in the game is, which is New Atlantis, and go from there. This Reddit user drew up a map of New Atlantis using landmarks as reference points. So here is by and large what the city could look like. Now I will say it's not that big. It looks about the size of Whiterun in Skyrim. Bethesda has said that New Atlantis is humanity's capital city, but it looks like there's going to have to be a bit of suspension of disbelief involved here to imagine that. Then again, it would be a bit unreasonable to expect a city with thousands of inhabitants. In Bethesda's defense though, that it does say New Atlantis has been around for 169 years, which is not a long time for a colony. Let's do some number crunching here. So if we imagine 1,000 colonists arrived at New Atlantis on day one and doubled in size every generation, after 169 years and 6 generations, there would only be around 32,000 inhabitants, which is only the size of a small town. So even though New Atlantis looks a bit small compared to a city you would find on Earth, it's actually fairly realistically sized, given it's an off-world outpost that's only been going for a century and a half. One really interesting thing I want to note about New Atlantis is the George R.R. Martin connection. Back before he wrote Game of Thrones, George R.R. Martin wrote a series of sci-fi stories, and in one of these stories there was a world called Old Poseidon, a name which is basically the opposite of New Atlantis. Old Poseidon, New Atlantis. So I believe the Starfield devs left a little George R.R. Martin Easter egg in there in the form of a callback to Old Poseidon, which in Martin's stories was also a big centre of culture and industry, just like New Atlantis. Okay, so those were the most burning questions we have about Starfield. Hopefully I answered those. It's all speculation, of course. I know about as much as you guys at the end of the day, so we'll have to wait and see how these things turn out. Starfield, of course, launches September 6th on Xbox and PC. For more Starfield videos, remember to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more good stuff.